What's up, guys? My name is Logan. I was brought in by the Scrapegram team to teach you a little bit more on how you can close deals more effectively based on the lead gen that Scrapegram will help you perform. I've been pretty good friends with the founder for a couple of years now, and a little bit of background on me. I'm 22, and a lot of what I've been able to provide for myself has been through my ability to sell. I dropped out of college about 3.5 years ago, and have done a number of different, e-commerce, internet marketing sort of related projects. But definitely my biggest strength through that time has been my ability to sell. And I've, had a sales operation that I've been running for the past year or so, probably closed about among all my different projects, coming up on probably $500,000 worth of closed deals, and that's growing every week. So I'm really excited to just kind of give you guys some foundation, some fundamentals, and get you off to where you can use Scrapegram and also have a little bit of a high level sales backend so that you can make money using this software, right? So we'll jump right into it. I'm going to share my screen here and just kind of walk you through a rough outline, give you some good points, kind of teach you how I approach both the setting of these calls based on your outreach, as well as actually closing deals. So let's maximize, well, we'll share my screen first. We'll go ahead and maximize this. All right. Somebody's tapped out of here. Boom. All right. So before we get into talking about the actual sales themselves, you on the phone with a prospect, I want to just talk a little bit about the call setting and the messaging as well, just give sort of my input in there. So the first thing I'm going to say is when you're doing these scrapes, right? When you're sending your cold emails, make them short, sweet, to the point. How do you help? How are you going to help them? And also with point B here, how can you show that you actually care about who they are and what they're doing with their company? If you can make these emails, I've done both in my career, and the ones where I actually, really genuinely care about what they are doing and not just how I can make money from that deal, but, showing that I've taken a personalized look at them and actually care. In my opinion, that's always going to convert the highest, right? Whether that's in your cold emails, in Instagram DMs, which, if you're using Scrapegram, you should be doing both of those things because it would be dumb not to. It's just another touch point. Do make it seem like if you're selling, you essentially want to be the right frame that you should have when you're selling. And there's a couple different ways you can think about this. There's two really. And I would say one is like a doctor and the other is like a friend, right? If you were, a doctor sort of, and we'll talk about this a little bit more once we get into the probe. But the friend bit makes a lot more sense for this when you're talking about doing the outreach to book these calls, right? Because if you're a friend, you wouldn't reach out to somebody and say, you wouldn't reach out to your best friend and say, hey, da 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 da. You would say, hey man, I know you've been doing this, and I think what I'm doing will align with that very well. And it doesn't come off as salesy. It comes off as a genuine, hey, you're doing this, and I have the puzzle piece that will help you, right? And so I would just say, any way you can do that, take 5 to 10 minutes to learn about these people. If you can, I guess it really kind of depends on what you're selling, but the more you can do that, the better, right? Video, no video. If you can send a video of you, mouthing out sort of these pitches, it makes it seem much realer, especially if you're on Instagram. You'll get a lot more responses because it shows up in someone's DMs faster than just a text. Same with pictures, anything like that, or even a voice memo. If you're somebody that you're not so good on camera, I would send send DMs to the people that you're scraping without the video. Maybe you can just do a voice memo. But again, still, the more you can personalize it, be genuine, and then just short, sweet, to the point. Hey, you have this, and this is why I can help you. And the more social proof you can have in that, the better. And so then that's just kind of, I just wanted to talk high level about these. I believe Andre is going to be teaching you more about that, but just things that have really worked for me. Video has been really strong for me, but I'm also, a very charismatic sort of person. And so I would say leverage whatever will help your strengths more. If you're not like that, then, just send a quick audio message, or even just send the normal message, right? So just talking about that a little bit with these platform best practices, booking your calls. If you're DMing or you're cold emailing, make sure you have everything in line. You have follow-up emails set up. You have, like, once they book a call, obviously take the time, pay the money, set up like a Calendly or, whatever other scheduler you want to use, even just Google Calendar, which is free, and their Hangouts works great, but just make sure all your systems are good there. Make sure you're following up with all these people and, setting the expectations. Hey, we're going to talk at this time, and, here's how you can call it a strategy session. You can call it whatever you want, but just make sure you're flush with that expectation setting. And the last thing is just, the more you can be specific and have a good offer, the better off you're going to be using all of this. These are all really marketing points. This is why I'm just kind of going once over on them, but it rolls into your sales, because the better you are at doing this, the better off you'll be when you're actually going to sell. Right. And so specificity, the more you can narrow it down to your prospects. So rather than, if you're doing lead gen for e-commerce, you're doing, not lead gen for e-commerce. That's so stupid. Rather than doing Facebook ads for e-commerce, maybe you do video creative customization for female-led founder brands. Right? So just the more you can make it apply to whoever you're talking to, the more your messaging before the sales call is going to convert. And then the more you can have a really solid offer where you're doing something that's different in the market, or it's really a no-brainer to work with you. Again, the more you'll convert in your messaging, and then the more you'll convert in your sales calls. So those are just some quick things that I wanted to talk about real quick that hopefully will make the sort of marketing flow into your sales better, and all the way you make more money using ScrapeGram. And so let's talk about sales here. So the first part of a sales call is the intro. It's the first, 5 to 10 minutes that you get on the phone with somebody. Boom, ring, ring. Hey, John Smith picks up the phone, right? And so I always like to lead these off with, hey, John, is now still a great time to talk? And if it's not, you don't want to talk to somebody that's like in a rush, or, has something else. If they're busy, reschedule, because you're not going to close them anyway, right? They're going to be half-assing the call with you and not paying attention, or, so make sure it's still a good time. They'll say, yeah, sure. And so now the goal of an intro is to build rapport if you can. And so this is very similar to what I was talking about with, the video DMs or not sending video DMs. And I mentioned that I'm very charismatic, right? So here's what I will tell you. So I often will ask people where they're located and tell me something that's exciting that's happened this week. I played college football in a couple different places. I've traveled a decent amount. And so it sort of works for me in that no matter what they say, I can generally and I'm also somewhat of a witty person. I can generally pepper something in there that will sort of match their energy and build rapport with them. But that's something I would say don't do if you're not comfortable with, it can be a double-edged sword. I've kind of been fortunate enough to see a lot of different things in my life, and so it works for me. If that is not you, right? You haven't done a lot of different things or been close with a lot of different types of people, things like that. I would just go straight, slick to the point. What motivated you to book this call with us today? You can jump into it. You don't have to really, get deep into their personal life. You can build strong rapport with them by answering questions later in the call. But the big thing is, if you can, find any commonalities, obviously that's great. It's going to depend on the type of closer that you are. If you're not so experienced, I wouldn't play with it, because I'm assuming you're probably using ScrapeGram to try to get some sort of business going, and you're not going to want to, you're going to want to close your first deal and get comfortable on the phone, things like that, before you start playing around with different styles. And so I would recommend that, what motivated you to book this call with us today, as a good sort of neutral option, right? And then the big thing is, you want to match their energy and tonality. Do they see, some people I talk on the phone with, and it depends what offers I'm selling. If you're selling some sort of like B2B business service, you're probably not going to want to, be real, happy, joking, that sort of thing, right? If it's B2C, typically you have more leeway to play with that. But you want to, at the end of the day, you want to match their energy. If they get on the phone, hey, da 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 da, be happy, joke around. You want to match their tonality, right? And so that's really it with the intro. It's not anything hard. It's just, if you can find commonalities, great, do it. If not, match their energy, match their tonality, and try to reciprocate it, right? You want to make them feel comfortable and build trust, even if it's subconsciously, with the person that you're selling for. And so, if you do find some sort of commonality, I love to, shoot the shit with them for a minute, that kind of thing. But very quickly, you don't want to waste time in that intro. They booked a call with you for a reason, and you want to get into why they're actually there, right? And so the next piece of a sales call, I call it the probe, right? And so this is where you say, so John, let's jump right into it. I'm going to ask you some questions so I can understand where you're at now and where you're looking to be, to see if I can help you. Does that sound fair? And so this is really important for you guys to think about, because first off, you're going to notice that all the way in this call, you want to be asking the questions. You want to be in control of the frame of this call, right? If they start asking questions, you need to quickly answer it and deflect with a question of your own, right? You do not want to be answering calls from your or answering questions from your prospects. You want them to be answering your questions, because at the end of the day, ultimately, you're the one that's qualified to solve their problems, right? You have the solution to their problems. And so if you're asking the questions, it sets the precedent that they're qualifying themselves to you, rather than vice versa. You're not going to close many deals if you're qualifying yourself to your prospects. You want it to be the other way around. So I just wanted to note that you're always asking questions. You're not rambling. You want the call to be mostly prospect speaking, but you're asking questions so that they can give you, ammo, so to speak, to use in your call. So John, let's jump into it. I'm going to ask you some questions so I can understand where you're at now and where you're looking to be, to see if I can help you. Does that sound fair? And they'll say yes. And this is another little key, great point. That's how you should really approach sales, is that you are the bridge from point A, where your prospect is, to point B, where they would like to be. And the more you can wedge yourself in there as that bridge, the more deals you'll close. Okay. The next two questions I really like to use to sort of pre-frame and pre-cover an objection. And that is it just you who will be deciding today whether our solution is right for your business or not? And so what this does is make sure, at the end of the call, you go through everything. They're not going to give you well, no, actually I have to ask my business partner, or, oh no, I got to convene with my wife. It really just determines that they are the sole decision maker. You want to make sure you check that box before you pitch any services and or prices, right? Otherwise, you're just leaving them an objection to pull out of their back pocket at the end of a call, you know? And so then the next one too, they'll say, obviously if they don't say yes, reschedule, say, okay, when's a better time to get you and your partner on the call, right? And you can reschedule as accordingly. The next question I ask them, obviously if they say yes, is, before we get into it too, I like to do everything here at XYZ company, very honest, stand-up way. You'll know by the end of our call if our solution can help you. And I think sometimes a lot of people are afraid to say no on a call like this. And then they'll say maybe just to kick the tire. And, look, I don't want to waste either of our time. And so can we agree that by the end of this call, yes, you want to work with us, great. Or no, you don't want to work with us, great. But that maybe is not an acceptable answer for just, and so that's something along the lines of that, basically saying they're agreeing to say yes or no and not be wishy-washy. And what that does is now you'll never get the, I'll think about it at the end of the call sort of objection, right? You avoid the maybe guys. We're going to go in there and just like, they don't even know what they want. It forces them to either give you a hard no and some reasons why, or to, get up off the fence and start making decisions for themselves. Right. And so boom, now you can really jump into the probe, right? You want to probe deep into these people and figure out what their burning problems are, what their big pains are, and, what truly motivates this person, what they want to achieve. Right. And so it's, again, you're asking good questions. And so, a lot of these, I have a little list here of questions you can ask. It'll be different for every sort of service. But, like in 3 months, what would your perfect outcome look like? What's your big goal? What's stopping you from doing that now? What have you tried? Why is this important to you? Why would you be a good fit to work with us? Are you serious about doing this now? What would not fixing this problem lead to for you? And the more you can work off of these questions that you ask and get deeper and deeper and deeper and truly just be a genuine human and actually listen to what they're saying and come off with a one-off, sort of custom, something that you can't write in this script or can't write in any sales script. But think about, what they say to you. If you say, what's stopping you from doing that now? And they say, oh, I've been stressed out because of my wife's, illness or something like that. You need to address those specific things that they give you and those burning problems and make them feel like you are, someone. And don't lie. That's another thing as we're talking about sales. Never lie about any of this stuff. It's not worth it. The money you'll make right now is not worth the short-term, profit, or it's not worth the money you'll make right now is not worth the weird energetic thing you'll get from, doing anything slimy like that. So try to make it within the realm of what you're selling. Like, for example, one of my business entities is a fitness company that I own with a partner. And one thing that we get a lot is I'll ask questions like this and they'll say, oh, well, I really my big goal is I want to get back playing soccer at a really high level. And I'll say, okay, great. Love that. I'm not the biggest fan of soccer myself, but I have a couple really good friends that are amazing at it. And, the sport's a lot of fun. I prefer the shorter field because it's a little bit more action. But what's stopping you from playing soccer at a really high level? And they'll say, oh, I need to get bigger. I need to get stronger. I need to get faster, more agile. And I'll say, okay, like, what do you think is the big thing that you need to do in order to do those things? They'll say, oh, well, my Achilles been bothering me for years, or my knee's been bothering me for years. And right there, that as soon as I get that, now I know what the real problem is, but I would have never gotten it if I didn't ask specific targeted questions based off their answer, right? And so now I have that in my ammo to when I'm making my pitch, now I can leverage that and bring it back up. We'll go through, hey, yes, we'll give you a system so that your knee can be improved and we can do this. And this is how we've done it before, right? Again, the more you can make specific references to social proof while you're selling, the more you'll sell. And so again, it really, you want to figure out what their problems, their pains are, and what they really want to be and why on a deep emotional level. And so now you have the ammo for you to pitch your offer as the bridge in the solution to those two things, right? And the more you can do that, the better off you will be. And so now once you get that, once you ask enough questions, you have enough ammo, you feel like you know enough about, sorry about that. Enough about this person's situation for you to be the solution toward their problems. Now you can get into pitching your service, right? And so there's a number of different things that, the way you can pitch your solution. I like to frame it as, so you'll ask a question, maybe you get an answer and, you'll say, okay, great. So really, John, this is what we're doing here. We're looking for XYZ, whoever your ideal client would be. And, we will help you by running all their ads for you or whatever your service is, right? Break it all down for them. And I like to really have systemized or unique mechanisms. And so this is essentially just, creating a system that is branded towards your company on how you can, get results for these people. It makes it sound somewhat proprietary. It gives a little bit more strength and clarity to your offer rather than, example, rather than saying, rather than us saying we're going to make somebody a diet plan, we say we're going to build them a personalized nutrition and supplementation protocol, right? That sounds much better than, hey, yeah, we're going to write you a diet plan. That sounds like it doesn't have much thought going into it, right? Or, rather than one offer that I sold a lot of a few months ago, it was a lead gen for fitness coaches offer. And their big shtick was, rather than saying, hey, we're going to run your ads and build your landing pages, they were leveraging AI to make the funnel work better. They had I don't remember what the ads was, how they sort of name staked their advertising methods, but they had a unique mechanism that they slapped a name to their ads that sounded really professional. And they called their landing pages conversion funnels. So just things like that, right? The more you can justify the clarity of what your offer is and what it does. And, don't want to go too in the weeds. If you can quickly tell them how it works, like I said, you don't want to confuse these prospects, nor do you need to tell them everything, because that's what the point of them paying you is, to gain access to it. But, you can say, again, to use my fitness business as an example, I would say if someone has knee pain, I tell them, yeah, we're going to build up, the strength through length relationship, as well as make sure that you're utilizing spirals in your knees and that you're also building a good, healthy, systemization of joint forces on the front, back, and sides of your knees, right? And that's how we're going to fix your knee. That doesn't tell them exactly how, but it gives them clarity on what you're doing and how you're going to fix it, right? And so the more you can do that and actually pull out the specific problems that they told you they're facing while you were probing them, the more strength your offer is going to have, because it's going to seem specific to them, right? You're going to be giving them things that resonate because they just told you that. And it makes it seem like A, you really listen, and B, you really are the perfect person to help them solve their problems, right? So, take notes on your calls. That way you can pull out more specific. Remember earlier I said it'd be ammo. You want to do that, right? And so break down everything that you're doing with your service in terms of what your service actually is, how it works. If you can give it a mechanism, great. Utilize specific problems that they gave you earlier. And then once you finish that, you should have said nothing about what you charge yet. You're just told them what you would do, right? And so now that I call this the commitments portion of the call. The big thing is that you want to make sure there's no solution objections, right? And then you can pitch your price. So I like this one. You can use you don't have to ask on a scale of 1 to 10. I like it though. Or overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, John, 1 being you hate it, 10 being you wish you'd started yesterday. How confident are you that our solution can help you get XYZ done? And they'll give you an answer. And if it's not a, 9 or a 10, sometimes I'll get people there say, well, a 9. Okay. Really a 9? I was hoping for a 10, John. Why a 9 rather than a 10? And they'll say, oh, well, I don't know you that well. And I just met you on the phone. I'm always a little bit skeptical. And so with that, I'd say something like, hey, I can respect that. Do you have any, is there anything about the system that you don't feel will help you with your problem? Right. And basically you want to figure out what they dislike about your solution. And, from there, convince them. Not obviously, you want to be tactical with that. You don't want to be, again, you want to be keeping the frame, but help them realize, rather than convince them, you can help them realize why your solution will actually fix that problem, why it should be a 10 out of 10, right? And so you're trying to pinpoint the exact problem that they have. And then you work to help them find clarity on why X problem's actually not even a problem, right? And so you do that. And you want to really, really pinpoint what the problem with the service is and get them on board with that service being able to fulfill on what they're doing. So you can ask them, hey, why not a 10? And they'll give you an answer. Maybe to say, oh, I don't like what you're doing with this part. Let's say you're selling lead gen. Oh, I don't like what you said about the ads. And maybe they're confused. Maybe you need to clarify, right? And so you can say, okay, is that the only problem with the solution? Is there anything else other than what you just said about, maybe the lead gen not making sense that can help? And ideally, you get them to a point where, you feel comfortable that you help them realize why this would work for them. And you'd say, hey, is there any other reason that would stop you from starting with us today? And oftentimes they'll say, oh, well, just the price, da, 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 da. And that's good. That means you ideally should not get any solution objections. And you'll say, great. And so now if you can, you want a price anchor, right? I think I've done it without price anchors and I've done it with price anchors. It typically always works better with a price anchor. And so essentially you're just giving them something that's way more expensive than what you're actually wanting them to buy for less, right? And so if you're selling lead gen, again, to use an example, you'll say, for that example, you could say something like, hey, normally for some of our clients where we go full on, you obviously want to add value to whatever it is you're selling if you're going to do this, but it's also good because sometimes you can convert some higher ticket offers just by having it in your back pocket. I'll give you this is exactly one that we use in our fitness business. I say, hey, we have we have some clients that, pay us to come here in person for their training rather than online. And then clients that we also run a bunch of blood work and send them accessories for, we send them a Whoop or some gear, some supplements, things like that. And I don't think you're ready for that quite yet, but we have our $2,000 offer where we use everything that I told you about for 12 weeks of training, right? And so it just makes it seem, once you tell them about this $10,000 offer, and then you go back and revert to the $2,000 offer, it sounds much cheaper to buy the $2,000, and it's a perceived value thing. They perceive you as a better, practitioner, coach, consultant, freelancer, whatever you are, because of that. And it's just some weird subconscious thing. And so once you drop that, you give them the actual offer that you want, hey, for our biggest, Fortune 500 clients, we charge $10,000, but for what you're doing and everything you just told me, for us to do lead gen for you, it would be $2,000. And then you, boom, don't speak. You state this price and you shut up, right? Whoever speaks first in that scenario loses. It can be the best sales calls I've ever heard. It's literally silence for minutes. They should be uncomfortable almost. Well, maybe not shouldn't, but that you don't want to speak, right? You want to wait until they say something. And once they speak first, you'll either get a yes. You'll say, great. Can I get your credit card then? Or great, do you have your credit card handy? And they'll get it out and you can run it over the phone and boom, you just close your first client. If they from there have any problem with it, you just do the same thing for your objections. You single them out, you make sure there are no other objections, and then you work from there, right? And I'm not going to go too deep into objections because it kind of can vary based on your offer, but you can watch quickly. If it's something you struggle with, I'd be happy to help you. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. It's at LOGFITZ6. If you send me some sort of specific objection that you're continually getting, I'd be happy to help you find a way to overcome that. But the thing I'm going to say here is, singularize it. Make sure it's just that objection. They don't have any other problem. And then from there, again, help them provide clarity, help them find clarity in their own thinking on why it's actually not a problem. Oh, they might say something like, oh, well, $1,500 or $2,000 sounds like a lot for lead gen. And, any sort of typically price orientation, I like to hedge it by helping them understand like opportunity cost and the fact that if they don't do it, the problem that they have is still going to exist. And once they do it, they're also going to ROI from that decision. Help them see the ROI of that decision, right? And it really just, you can get a lot of different objections based on what they say. But I would recommend, marking them all down. That way, if you get recurring ones, you can really figure out how to fix them easily. But it's hard to, give a list of every, I'm not going to give a list of every objection, right? Because that wouldn't make sense. But yeah, you just want to you want to make sure it's the only objection. And then from there, help them find clarity on why it's not a problem, right? And so that is my little spiel on closing more deals and doing it better. So hopefully that was helpful. Again, if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to help you guys out. You can shoot me a quick DM on Twitter or Instagram at LOGFITZ6. And hope ScrapeGram is going great for you guys. Thanks. Have a great night.